Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're happy to see everyone here. It is Thursday, October the 22nd. We are having our board meeting in the boardroom at the Professional Development and Technology Training Center on Legacy Campus. And we're going to go ahead and begin with a roll call.
Randall Bagley, board member.
Steve Norton, superintendent.
Roger Pulsifer, board member.
Kathy Christiansen, board member.
Jeff Nielsen, board member.
Terry Rhodes, board member.
And Dale Hanson, business administrator.
Larry Gibson is board member. He's asked to be excused, and I'm assuming Chris
Can't make it either.
He can't? Okay. And Chris is excused. Chris Corcoran, board member, is excused as well. So we'll go ahead and start first with our pledge and mission statement by Randall Bagley.
Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know if there's any public input or not. Okay. Do you want to say anything besides what you're going to say? Okay. We'll go ahead and then move to our consent agenda, and I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
I second it.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote then.
Dale, I can't get in yet, so I approve, but.
No, there it is.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All righty. Is there anyone here from Birch Creek yet?
I don't think so. And
Should I wait? And-
no, because
Just go ahead and do
this is the action part.
Okay.
Gary can answer any questions.
Okay. All right, I will take a motion to approve the Birch Creek Elementary Land Trust Funds redistribution.
I move that we approve the Birch Creek Elementary Land Trust Funds redistribution.
I second it.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Gary about it?
Well, I'm just confused with the labels on board docs because one label says it's their TSSA changes, and then the paper says that it's trust lands. So you can't answer that question.
I probably,
Oh,
you remember which one it is?
It's the trust lands, because we haven't even approved the TSSA to be able to modify those.
That's true.
Well, that's why I was confused by the TSSA label.
So
Okay, thank you.
Trust lands.
yeah, okay. We'll go ahead and vote then.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll take a motion to approve the Mountainside Elementary Land
Gary, you
Trust
might as well stay.
Funds redistribution.
Quarantine at the
You got a
moment,
few-
so.
Yeah, people not here.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the Mountainside Elementary Land Trust Funds redistribution.
I se-
Second.
okay.
Sure. No, not
All
with
right, any
Jeff.
questions about it? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Am I going too fast, Dale?
You have one as well.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, welcome. I'll take a motion to approve the Wellsville Elementary Land Trust Funds redistribution.
I move that we approve the Wellsville Elementary Land Trust Funds redistribution.
I second.
Any questions?
I think that this Solution Tree Conference has really messed up our district.
You
Or
think
the-
what?
The cancellation of the Solution Tree Conference has really
Oh,
created a lot of changes in our
Yeah.
district.
okay. All righty. We'll go ahead and vote then. On Mountainside. No, on Wellsville.
Wellsville.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mike, you handle South Cache if there's any question.
all right. I'll take a motion to approve the South Cache Middle School Lands Trust Plan Amendment.
I move that we approve the South Cache Middle School Lands Trust Plan Amendment.
I second it.
Okay, any questions? Or
Did
just-
we see this one already? Because there's no attachment on this one.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw it.
Andy,
Oh, okay,
yeah, Andy came last time.
okay.
All right. We'll vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All righty. And now, we'll take a motion, I'll take a motion to approve the district financial audit report.
Probably would like to hear it first. I would think.
Yeah.
Diana's here.
Well, it's on our action. Oh, yeah, let's approve it.
You might have to turn that off, Mike. I think Mike might, okay, it's on.
I've already met with the audit committee, and I just want to tell them thank you so very much for really reviewing the financial statements and taking the time to analyze them. It's nice that you have a functioning audit committee that year-round is looking into things, and so I just want to tell everyone thank you for that. This year's been a little different for you all. Financially, though, very solid. So that's the great news. You've gotten the financial statements. Just a quick little overview. Your assets went up about $19.5 million. A lot of that was in cash and investments, as well as fixed assets. You did a $14.5 million lease lighting, a lighting that was like a lease improvement over multiple schools, and that's shown in as an increase in assets, as well as your liabilities went down a lot. The biggest component of your liabilities going down was with the pension liability. Those numbers are done by the state with an actuary, and so you don't have a lot of control over that, but also you paid down some debt. Overall, your debt went up with the lease lighting. But if you look, your financial statement is very solid. Revenue-wise, you had some great increases, both in state funding as well as property tax. The one component that we did see a decrease in revenue was in local aid, and that had to do with like school lunches, because you weren't providing, actually, school lunches went up. In your schools, all the student activity funds, those amounts went down because a lot of activities got canceled. The expenses related to those also decreased as well. Your school lunch actually had a great year because you actually provided lunches and breakfasts to a larger population than you used to, given the additional funding that was received for that. So that was a great benefit both to the community as well as to those who received it. So overall, the financial statements are very solid. I want to highlight a couple other things. Your undistributed reserve in your fund balance increased $1 million, so that is now at $5.5 million, which is nice. I know you every chance you get, you kind of increase that to try to help for future things. Your expenses also went up, but that's because you're seeing the lease lighting project that run through the expenses. Overall, your net income or revenues over expenses is shown two different ways with governmental financial statements. If you are running through your capital improvements as an expense without depreciation expense, but your debt payments as, that one had an ending of $12.7 million net income. Without that, capitalizing assets and not having your debt run through, that was about an $8 or $9 million net income. So either way you look at it, the district was doing well. When you look at the financial statements in the footnotes, a couple of the ones that I always kind of pay attention to is your detail on your fixed assets as well as the detail on your debt. And you can find those in the financials on page 63 and page 55. In addition to this audit, we also go out to various schools throughout the year. We mainly do it in April, May, and June. And we test them based on, we test their school lunch, we test cash to make sure they've got the receipts and documented authorizations. We test fixed assets, we test payroll, a whole variety of things. And I'm pleased to say that all of the schools that we visited passed, which means if any of them have significant issues, we go back the next year. We really use this more as a training mechanism as well as a reporting mechanism to you. And all of them did, we don't have to repeat any of those procedures and go back to them for the following year. We do go to the high schools every single year. So there's no buys on the high schools. As many transactions as they're going through, we go through and test it. And in addition to just like a random sample that we do, we also test everything over $2,000. So if they are writing a check, we're testing everything over $2,000, checking their bidding, purchase orders, and everything to make sure it's within district policy. So it's just a really great report. Everything I felt was, all the testing that we did just went really, really well. And I just want to thank Dell and all of his staff. They do a great job. And we really appreciate how hard they work throughout the year so that when we come and do all the audit procedures, that it goes as smoothly as possible. So thank you, Dell. Make sure you pass that on to everyone else we worked with as well. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you so much, Diana. We really appreciate all of the work that you do for our district in the financial area.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And so now I will take a motion to approve the district financial audit report.
I move that we approve the district financial audit report.
I second it.
Okay, any questions? All right, we'll vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
You're not going to stay for the rest of the meeting?
Thank you, Diana.
And thanks for the chocolates, too. Okay, we'll move down to item number 6, and, okay. Is there anything more we need to hear on this before we vote?
I can give you a little background
Okay.
and refresher. The state, for the past 2 years, has been transitioning to a new license system. And in preparation for that, back in February, I brought a district policy, CCSD LEA teacher license and endorsement. You passed that in March. And as of July 1st, all licenses in the state of Utah changed from their old system, which was a level 1, level 2 ARL or APT license, to a professional, associate, or an LEA-specific license. So this approval that I'm asking for tonight is not something that you've seen in the past. As part of the transition to this new license system, the state has given more control and discretion to local boards to approve certain temporary licenses, and those are the LEA-specific licenses and endorsements that I'm bringing to you tonight. These would be good for a period of 1 to 3 years, and you can see on the spreadsheet that I gave you that the only ones that I'm asking for 1-year approval are ones that are a license has expired, or we've got an out-of-state candidate coming into our district. And we expect those to be resolved shortly. But to get funding for our professional staff, we do have to have kind of a cover approval or temporary approval to make sure that we are in line for that funding. And so this, I know it looks like a lot, but I can tell you that the number of LEA-specific licenses and endorsements is average compared to other years. In years past, these have been called a letter of authorization, and we have done those directly with the state board through an online request process. And eventually, we'll send this list down to the state, and they'll see that if the school board passes this, that these teachers will have a temporary authorization only to work in our district. So they couldn't take this license and go to another district. It's only authorized to work in our district in these specific areas for which we're seeking authorization. You'll see that most of these are teachers who have a license, but they're teaching in an endorsement area outside of what they currently have an endorsement for. That, I would say, is over half of these requests. Another quarter are teachers who have followed a non-traditional route to their licensure. And so they're working towards the professional licensure, and this is a step in that journey towards that professional licensure. And then the other quarter are licenses that have expired, and they're still working to get background checks and tests done to complete that. I did give you an updated spreadsheet that on the top of it I wrote 10/22, today's date, and that's different from the one that you had earlier. Only in the very last page there, there's a bold line on that last page, and everything below that line are endorsements that we've been working on over the last couple of days. So I did need to update that. Yes, we are seeking your approval, and that is one of the requirements of the law and the rule, is that we do get board approval for these LEA-specific licenses.
This is just a curiosity question. Do you still have to find out if teachers are, no, what was the term that was used?
Highly qualified?
Yes.
Highly qualified was a term associated with No Child Left Behind, and that's somewhat been superseded. There are still elements of that are still in place, but yes, we still have to make sure that they are not only state qualified, but any federal guidelines that they're qualified according to federal requirements.
And so do these teachers eventually fit into that?
Yes, they will. And this authorization that I'm seeking, this LEA-specific authorization, will temporarily grant them that status, and so they will be eligible for that funding. But again, it's brand new this year. I will come back next year with another list. It'll be smaller because you'll see that some of these are on a 3-year, which is the maximum we can ask. But we won't be asking for approval for them next year. So I do see it shrinking, but I do see this being a need that will have to be resubmitted each year as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have one, well, I have a lot, but I'll ask one. So what does the percentage column mean?
So that is the percentage of the current assignment that they have that they are not qualified in.
Okay.
And you can see, it varies from 100 to 17 in some cases. And that means if they're 100%, that means that they need a license. If it's less than 100, that means they need the endorsement, so they have an appropriate license, but they're teaching in an area outside of their previous coursework. So the percentage corresponds to the amount that we're seeking authorization for.
So understanding that, then a lot of these people are already licensed.
Yes,
But, so we're seeking the LEA-specific licensure for just the percentage of, like 17%, that's probably one class, right?
yeah, it is, and that definitely happens in our secondary schools where they may be teaching several topics, and they're highly effective in teaching in this area, but they don't have the specific credential to follow that. So yeah, it would be one class or two classes. And our expectation would be that they would complete the coursework to get that endorsement, or that we would reassign them to something consistent with their credentials.
Remind me, sorry, does somebody else want to ask a question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
With the LEA-specific licenses, is there a time limit on those?
Yes, there is, and that's that very last column. So you'll see that we're asking for either 3 years or 1 year. The 1 year are for all those who have an expired license. And some of these, but from the time that we originally gave you the spreadsheet to now, have actually renewed their licenses, and they've come off. But the others, the maximum we can ask is 3 years. And if it goes beyond that, then instead of the local board approving it, we would have to go to the state board for further duration. So rather than do it 1 year at a time, we're asking for the maximum flexibility to have 3 years. But some of these could certainly finish or get reassigned earlier than that.
Okay,
But we want the flexibility of covering them for up to 3 years.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let me get back here. I will take a motion to approve the LEA-specific license review.
I make a motion to approve the LEA-specific license review.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All righty, we'll vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Next time I'll bring chocolate.
Oh, perfect. Does Janda post this for you? Is she the one who puts it up? She is?
Oh, yes.
Okay, will you just ask her to do a quick edit? There's just a few little things in it.
Okay. Yeah, if
Catch
you
up.
want to send those to me, I can,
You can do it before you
Yep.
give it to her.
yep, thank you.
Okay, I'll look at it again. Thanks. Okay, I will take a motion to approve the TSSA allocations and plans.
So we've had a chance to visit with the board last time we met with the allocations, and some of you made some comments on the different plans on the shared drive, so appreciate your comments. And like I say, this plan is unique because it stays right here. It doesn't go any farther than this board.
Okay. I'll take a motion then to approve the TSSA allocations and plans.
I move that we approve the TSSA allocations and plan.
Second.
Okay, any questions on it?
No, I have a comment. Well, I guess I have a question. Were there less comments this year than last year? Because it seemed like the plans that I read were a lot more effectively or efficiently done than last time.
I would ask Tim, when you reviewed them, did you pick up anything different?
Yeah, this was all new principles last year. They were,
Yeah.
it was a fund that they weren't used to spending and what the rules were, and I think you're absolutely right. I think they're better at understanding the framework that they're working in. I saw a lot fewer comments from board members. I think board members are more used to how the funds work. So I would say yes, there was fewer comments this year.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Thank you.
Do you look over them before we look over them? So there's the principal who looks at them, and then it's not just us?
I'll
is it?
scan them, the secondary ones. I believe Gary will scan the elementaries.
Okay. And
Because
then
we
it's
kind of gave them the big guidelines, you know, your money needs to be focused in these areas.
And then it just stops after us. We don't have to send them to the state. We don't
Nope,
have to.
it stays right here.
Okay.
You're the
Just so
final.
everybody knows
you're
that
the final say.
we're the last stop, right?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you, board, for checking those and making sure they're all written correctly. Thank
And I
you.
think the principals did a real good job doing it.
Yeah.
Give them credit.
Okay, we'll move down to the reports, and we will start with Nibley Elementary. Our brand-new principal, here for the first time.
First of all, if I may, just take a minute for personal privilege. I would like to say thank you to the board and thank you to the district. I have been part of the district for a while, and I don't know that I've ever felt more support financially in many ways than this year as we've faced this challenge. And can't tell you what a difference it's made to have masks and hand sanitizers and extra hours for secretaries, and our nurses have been unbelievable of the district, and just would like to say thank you for doing everything you can on your end to help us on our end keep everybody safe and in school. So thank you very much, appreciate that. I'm here to make a request to amend our trust land funds. Ultimately, the request is to move $6,100 from technical and technical supports to hardware. The money was originally put into a fund for the Leader in Me program, which is a fabulous program. So we are not ending the program. We are actually just putting it on the back burner, because as we looked at, as a community council, we looked at the agendas that we had and the programs that we had and the money that we had. There are so many more things this year that are essential that we've had to look at what is essential and what is optional. And we felt like there were some things that we needed essentially more than when the Leader in Me program. We did make contact with the program, and we can go back next year with no penalties, because it has been a lot of the culture of Nibley Elementary School. And so we would like to see that return. Some of the other problems that we left it for is so many of the programs you're not going to be able to do this year. Even things like getting some of the sixth graders together then would require contact tracing every time you had a meeting. And we just felt like that this year, as we looked at our needs of our school with masks and all the things, we had some very antiquated audio systems, voice enhancement systems. We had the Cache County School District technical crew come and go through every single classroom and every single sound system. Some were perfect, some were very old and antiquated, and others didn't even have any. And we felt like that this would help not only the teacher to save the teacher's voices, but also help the students in every subject that they have. And we would like to take the money, put it towards the voice enhancement systems this year. And we are doing that by the recommendations that were made by the technical crew of the district. And it will take a little bit more money than this, but we will find that money. But the $6,100 would go a long ways, and that's why we're putting it into hardware.
Okay. Any questions? All right, sounds good. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Should kind of draw up the whole proposal and let me see how much money it actually takes to do it all.
I typed it up and gave it to Lorene.
To who?
Lorene?
Okay. I just hadn't seen it.
Okay, we'll move on to Skyview's amendment to their school lands trust plan.
I just came from another activity, so I apologize, I'm not in my school board attire tonight, but we are just asking for an amendment to our trust land funds. As we looked at FTE last spring, not knowing how many students would go to full-time online, gratefully not very many did. And so as a result, we're just looking to lower our class sizes. So it'd be about $4,600 from our supply, and then another $9,000 that would come from some of our teacher training that I don't anticipate we're going to need at the same amount that we have in the past. there just aren't those opportunities this year, so.
So have you already reduced the classes, or?
Yes.
How's that working? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
this will, well, it's in the works. It's into the personnel office and everything now, so that that'll be reflected beginning this next month.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
You bet.
All right, the proposed definition of at-risk students for the EARS application.
Yes, so the year's application, enhancement for at-risk students, has changed once again. 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to either use a state board-approved definition of at-risk students or a local board. And we decided to use a local board-approved definition. When it was all said and done, it mirrored the state definition so closely that last year we just decided to go with the state definition. This year, though, they've changed, and R 277-708-2 no longer gives you the option for a state board-approved definition. So we're back to a local board definition. So with that, we're proposing that we basically use what we used before, but that would be a student who scores below proficient or below benchmark on required state tests will be considered at risk of academic failure. That then allows us to use this money from this grant for those students. And primarily, we use the Acadience test, and the money goes to fund all of the parapros for our reading and some of the curriculum that we purchase with that. So that's the lion's share of where this goes. But we do need a board-approved definition of what an at-risk student is.
And where do you use that? In all documentation? This is, or?
I think we will use it in all documentation specifically with EARS, but I think we're also going to use it in some other things. I'm meeting with Stacy Gom tomorrow on some things she's working on. We're going to use it there. What I like about this is it's concise and simple enough that we could easily add to it in another area if we need to, but I think this would be a nice basis to start.
Okay, any questions?
Does the EARS money, you said that you use it mostly for parapros. Does that help, because we have so many schools now that are not Title I, does it help with the lack of Title I funds for those schools? Or is this a totally different area?
Yes and no. We can't, it's a supply and supplant thing, so we can't say, oh, you're a Title I school, so because of that, we're going to give these guys more EARS money. We can't do that. But what we do, it is based on enrollment, number of students in the school, but it's only spent on those at-risk students. And then we actually, our goal is tied to the percentage of at-risk students based on our Acadience test that we just finished last month. And our goal is going to be to reduce the number of students who tested below benchmark on the Acadience by 25% in our spring. And it's not just an overall 25, it's of those specific students who are currently at risk, we hope to reduce that by 25%. And we came in at a little over 2,000 students who scored below benchmark. This summer slide was a little bit larger than our previous summer slides because our summer seemed to be a little bit longer. It started in March this year. So that's where the money will be used, and that's where our goal is.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, Dale, the 2019-2020 financial report.
Yeah, Diana covered a lot of, a good overview of the year-end financial position of the district. But I put together a report, which I've been doing every year, that basically contains the reports that we submit to the state school board and the state auditor's office, which highlights, it's actually shown in two different fashions. One is a report by fund detailing revenues and expenditures and equity balances. And the other report is one where it looks at each individual program, like special ed or driver's ed or CTE, and looks at each of those individually, breaking out their revenues and expenditures, so you can see on a per program basis how funds are expended in the district. So there's just two things I wanted to point out. One was, if you look at the that's actually page number 2 in the book. This is the first page of the state report based on a fund basis here. And so it breaks out first, and probably the most important thing you want to look at is on the balance sheet itself. Down at the bottom, third line from the bottom of the balance sheet section, it'll show the total fund balances. So that's probably one of the best comparisons, looking one year to the next, is what is kind of the basic carryover amount in each fund. So you can see that the actual for 2020, this year just ended, was 14.6 million. Last year at that same time, it was 10.8 million. And so all that just shows the increase that we have, and I'll go through that in just a second. But so that's probably one of the most important things to look at. You can see then the detail of the revenue and the expenditures all the way through. It's interesting to see too that our total expenditures in the general fund for salaries and benefits a year ago was at 86.7%, and this past year, the year just ended, we actually came in at 88%, so that's increased. And so I think that shows the continued effort that we've had in trying to make salaries and benefits a priority with our employee groups, and that's worked really well. So probably the main thing I'd point out would be on page 37, which gives a breakdown of the ending fund balance in the general fund itself. And that's on page 37, I think it is. So the accrued balance at the end of the year was $19.4 million. Of that, just under $5 million was made up of funds that we are holding for restricted programs. So that this is special money for at-risk or for accelerated learning programs, for adult ed. Each of those you can see listed, and it shows the dollar amount of the carryover is what they have. And again, it goes back to that rule the state has. You're not supposed to recognize state revenue as recognizing it as revenue until you've actually expended it for the purpose that it was given to you for. And so a carryover means this money hasn't been spent for what it was intended yet. So they changed the classification of being deferred revenue into the next year. So this is being deferred into 2021 year. So again, that's the good information there. You can see that also we have the undistributed reserve, as Diana mentioned, that now is $5.5 million. We have our deductible for fire insurance, and then we have down below, these are carryover balances with unrestricted funds. So these are like funds that we allocate out to the schools for their combined aids or for their supply purchases, for custodial supplies, for other locally funded programs like ETI, which is our technology budgets. All of those kind are shown up here as designation of fund balances with unrestricted funds. So we have almost $2.3 million encompassed in those type of carryovers. And so the very last number is that unappropriated fund balance, and that is the money that is available at the end of the year that isn't actually specifically appropriated for a specific use. So it's unappropriated at that time. And that's where we're sitting at the 6.6 million, which is the highest we've ever had. If you look at the next page after that, it'll show a 5-year comparison of each of those categories of the equity balances in the general fund over the last five years. And so, yeah, the very bottom line, the unappropriated fund balance, you can see last year we were at 4.6 million, so we're 2 million above that point from last year. And part of the reason for that is that the carryover funds from the prior year, a lot of times we haven't spent those. We got the budget in place for the current year, and so part of that has been maybe paying out a little small a salary augmentation to employees and other certain small items. But for the main part, the crux of that is carried over and builds into that carryover balance from for the following year. And so it's not like we came up with $6.6 million just fresh blue, out of the blue that year. A lot of it was carryover from the prior year, but also a lot of it had to do with the COVID changes of shutting school down that last trimester. We still paid most of our salaries and benefits, but a lot of the other expenses of operating the school pretty much came to a halt in many ways.
Can I ask a question while we're on that page?
Yeah.
So it says there's $0 for in the early retirement reserve.
Yeah.
For fiscal year 20. But we offered after June 30th a week of a window of a week for people to choose to retire if they wanted to.
True.
So where will that money come from if there's no retirement
That will
reserve?
actually come out of the 6.6 million that we'll reappropriate in this new year. So like I say, that actually occurred in this new fiscal
Right.
21 year, so it didn't show up in the financials here. But it's a one-time payment, so it'll all be spent out. It won't be reserved into future years. It's
Okay.
paying out over a multi-year payment out. So, yeah, it'll just be in our current expenditures in this new year's
Okay.
budget, so, yeah.
So is the 6.6 million, is that part of the rainy day fund? That's separate?
That's separate. So, you can see the 5.5 million up above there.
This is the
Is
first
the
one
undistributed
goes
reserve.
across there.
Oh, okay.
That has gone from 2 million to 5.5.
Uh-huh.
That's a substantial increase to that reserve fund.
Yeah.
Dale pretty much got it to where he wanted it to be. We will probably try and put a little bit more in there so that he can leave and tip his hat when he leaves. So I got it to where I wanted it.
Can any of the unappropriated money be put in that or not?
Could be, but that's where we've been
Right.
putting it from.
Okay.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's, yeah, you can see, because 2 years ago, we actually got down-rated on our bond rating.
Mhm.
Because we didn't have enough
our
reserve.
balances were so low. And so, yeah, we've made a lot of good effort to build that up, and like, we can be proud of that. So like I say, then the last section that's back, starting on page 46, 47, is 46, is the area that breaks it down by program. The first 2 pages are kind of summary groupings of those programs. Like all of the CTE programs are consolidated into one column of numbers there. Special ed has its own special page there. So this is the summary pages. Then behind that shows the detail where it actually itemizes each individual program separately. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with how we ended the year. It's, like I say, it's probably the strongest ending balance we've been in since I've been here. This is great, so.
Great.
And we'll probably need it as we start into this year with a lot of the changes that we're needing,
Yeah.
trying to accommodate some of the different ways we've had to teach and additional things we put in place, trying to monitor the virus in our kids and monitor everything else that are associated with it, so.
Well, thank you, Dale. And your committee who works on it. It's awesome that we have some extra money. So appreciate it.
Nice work.
Anybody have any questions about anything? I guess we don't know enough yet about it till we look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go to the monthly financial reports.
Okay, so I did include there the monthly report for July, August, and September. And again, when you look at the budget we built last June, we didn't include any cost of living increase in the salary projections. I think we only had I think we did have a 2% in there for insurance that's built in. But since we built that budget, a lot has changed. We're now offering online classes to kids, trying to remediate or keep them, for those that have been quarantined, trying to keep them going. And so we have seen, though, I think an increase in enrollment in our secondary schools, but actually have had a decrease in the elementary. I think more have either gone to homeschool during this period now or doing online classes maybe outside of what the school district is offering. And so that's had some effect on the budget itself, because we have, in a lot of cases, provided more teacher FTEs than maybe was actually needed in some of those elementary schools. But at this point, it's tough to pull those back. So I know there will be some of that 6.6 million that will be needed to cover these increased teacher FTEs that we have had to put in place. I think we added, what, 5 FTEs in the secondary schools, Mike? If you remember right. I think it was about 5. Yeah, because we did have quite an increase out there.
Has that affected the classroom size significantly? No?
I mean,
Not what I've seen.
Okay.
yeah. I think the schools that had the most growth, as I remember, were Green Canyon and Ridgeline still. Yeah. So we have some good high schools. People want to go there.
Yeah.
But we're running out of space in some places. So it gets to be tough to keep up with it. But as far as the report itself goes, I think that shows one payroll, first payroll now for teachers. And so I have actually gone in and updated the working budget here after this first payroll was completed to try to bring the budgets back in line with where we are. And so really we had like the 6.6 carryover at the end of the year. We also had about $2 million that we had left unappropriated when we built the budget for this year because we didn't know for sure what we were going to do with salaries or any of those issues, and state funding we thought might be cut back. So there's really about $8 million that was there, and so I did have to use almost $4 million, about 3 3/4 million to cover the salary increases in all the salaries, to cover the additional FTEs and bring that into place. So that used up a chunk of that, but there's still right now about $4 million that's there unappropriated at this point. And again, that's just in the working budget. That hasn't been formally approved by the board or anything like that yet. And maybe one other thing I just noticed, Kurt Jenkins told me today that I knew they had extended the deadline, or I guess, yeah, the time period that federal funding would allow us to serve school lunch to all children, and even children that weren't even in our schools, what we did during the summer. And you could see that, I think food service had like a $1.2 million increase in their ending fund balance from the prior year. And the number of meals that they had served were considerably more than we've had in the past, because we were serving a lot of kids and serving them breakfast and lunch. And but the federal government has now extended that period out till June. So really we won't be charging any of the students for meals this whole year. We do have the issue of balances that we're holding in the school lunch program for kids. trying to figure out how, if we want to refund that back to all the parents, if we want to just let it sit, and if parents are interested to pull it back, we could refund it then. Something we've got to work out, we're just trying to.
So nobody brings lunch money anymore to school?
No,
Anybody
Not
who
this
wants to
year.
eat can eat. That's pretty awesome,
yeah, it is nice.
actually.
Yeah. So the
Has
government's.
it increased? Are there more meals being served because of that?
Actually, as of September, it was actually
Is that-
down just a hair from what it was the year before, but again, a day or two differing in the calendar
Yeah.
for the month end may
They are
be the
serving
effect
more.
of that.
But at high school, you can't get free à la carte.
Oh,
You can only get free main line.
I see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We thought at the high schools especially, leave the balances in place because many of them will just take à la carte. And so they can still have that available to them.
So, okay, this is just an idea rolling around in my head that I'm wondering about. Why hasn't the government done that before?
Costs
If they're
money.
able to do it now, how come lunches haven't been free for kids in school years before this?
Because you should only print so much money new.
Exactly right. I don't know where they're getting the money to cover it. I mean,
Oh,
They borrowed it.
yeah.
from China.
You know that deficit that keeps getting bigger and bigger?
As part
The
of that.
kids are eating their savings in the future.
I
Yeah,
see.
they are.
There you
Okay,
go.
all right, I'm with you.
Yeah. So really, next month's financial report, I think, will give you a better picture where we really stand. This one's still pretty early in the year, so
Okay,
that's all I have.
all right, thanks. Anybody have any questions? All right, appreciate that. We are going to move the strategic plan report to our next meeting. And so we'll just come down to our committee reports. Terry, do you want to go first on this and just tell us about the Zoom meeting?
Sure. So if you remember last meeting, we had a dad who was here in the back, sitting in the back from White Pine Elementary, as we discussed holding our part of our board meeting in November remotely. And we thought we could do it on the first meeting in November because they are having parent-teacher conference. But then in the principals meeting, they decided to do all remote. So they're doing all their parent-teacher conferences online, so there won't be any parents in the school that night. So Shelley,
When we say all, primarily that's our goal, but any teacher who feels the need to meet with a parent face-to-face can, and vice versa, any parent who wants to meet with teacher face-to-face can. So there will be some.
right, but
Yeah, not,
as I discussed it with Shelley Healy at White Pine, she felt like that would not present a great, it would be difficult for the parent, to get parents to come to the school if they are trying to do parent-teacher conferences for multiple kids or whatever that meant. So as we talked about it, I asked her if the 19th would be better, and she said yes. So if we can plan towards that, then I will tell her that we'll just work towards the 19th.
Okay, so what's everybody's feedback on that? Any problems with the
It works.
19th?
No, that works.
Works. So I think Chris was going to go with you, and I'll just email him and make sure it works for him.
So we won't have to move our audit committee meeting on the
Okay.
5th, or whatever, 3rd, whatever day that is.
The first-
Anyway, the first meeting, so we'll leave
Okay.
our audit committee meeting
Okay,
on that night.
okay. Let me just write myself a note really fast. Chris.
Tim, have any of your guys been to White Pine to check and see if we can make this work for a board meeting?
No, but we will.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you have a room specifically there you're targeting?
The last time I was there for a school community council, she just had us in a classroom, and I think it was their special ed classroom. And she just pulled out one of those equipment kits that the district gave to each of the schools, where she had the little camera set up on a tripod and a computer screen, so those of us in the room could see the people who were remote, and a microphone set up so that people who were remote could hear what was happening in the room also.
But if you're hoping to get much of a crowd, you might want to consider their media center too. But, yeah.
So, Superintendent, you and Dale, we're going to talk about the Amendment G. Do you
Yeah,
still
we'll
want to do that?
We'll still do that.
Okay. It's not too late to, too
No,
late for
we'll-
the election,
we'll-
but,
We'll know,
Well,
we'll
yeah.
just be talking about the ramifications of,
okay.
I think if we're gonna have parents, because I have 3 parents in mind, specific parents that I'm going to invite. I wonder if we should just hear from the parents, ask them questions instead of try and
To give them information.
just give information to 3 parents.
Do you like that idea, everyone? Better? That'll let you off the hook?
well, no, we'll still give a report on it.
Okay.
For the general board meeting, so it
Okay.
doesn't change what we would normally do, but it was a topic we thought they might have some interest in.
Yeah. All right, so could do both, Terry, do you think? That would work out okay?
Yeah.
All right, so, oh my gosh, Principal Healy, what's her first name?
Shelley.
Shelley. Would she then kind of take care of what the parents would like to ask, blah, 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 and?
Yeah, or I can,
When
because
you get there, okay.
I'll contact them all personally.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Okay.
All right. And then Randall, update us on anything new about teacher and staff recognitions.
Yes, last meeting, we talked a little bit about ways we could show appreciation to our teachers and staff, and one thing we decided that would be fairly effective and easy to do was just to sign a card, have everybody on the board sign a card to give to those recipients of Teachers of the Year Award. And afterwards, after the meeting, Jenda came up and she said that she would be happy to make a kind of a customized card for that. So that was really nice of her to do. And a few of us were talking about other things that we could do afterwards, and the idea of a yard sign was brought up, either to recognize an individual teacher, put it in front of their house, or put it in front of schools. There were a few concerns about that. First of all, there's some teachers, they may not want an individual sign out identifying them as Teacher of the Year, so that could be something that some teachers may not want. Another one was the cost and the extra work of someone having to do that, and also the effectiveness of yard signs in front of schools. We're seeing a lot of yard signs, so sometimes they, may not be that effective. So that's were just some thoughts and ideas that came up. And does anyone have anything they'd like to mention about that?
Would we be able to get are we having recognitions coming here to the meeting for the Teachers of the Year or not this year? Okay, so could we get the recognition card like the meeting before the actual one, so we're not all just trying to? Sign
That
it.
would be ideal if we could do that.
So I think Kisa,
If we knew it ahead of
Literally.
time, and I could, and I'm gonna see if I can email Kirk and see if he can kind of keep me on board of doing
and
that.
then Jenda's office is right next to Kurt's, so.
okay, so either one of those. Okay, so just really quickly, without a lot of debate, do you like the idea of doing yard signs either at individual teachers or a big one out in front of the school, just showing gratitude to the teachers? Oh, what's your thoughts on that? Jeff?
I think, so the teacher sign go at the school, or you're saying that they're?
Well, there were 2 ideas, right? One for individual teachers, or just one per school that just said, thanks for teachers, but then we'd have to do probably the support staff too.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't want to leave anybody out. Maybe just a big shout out to all of the rock stars in the school who are doing so great during this time. Might work.
So my girls like those individual recognition signs. For me, I shy away from that kind of stuff, so I'm probably not a good person to they're probably, I don't know, what does everybody else think?
Okay.
I believe in recognizing, I think that's a great idea. I don't know if that's the mechanism to do it with, but,
So Roger and Kathy were both former teachers. If someone put a yard sign up
Oh, yeah,
and
there
said,
you go.
congratulations, you were Teacher of the
I
Year.
would be totally in. I'd love to be in the spotlight.
Okay, so you're
So-
cool.
I don't know if I would.
So, yeah, we've got different personalities.
I guess another question is, who's going to do it all?
Yeah.
Who's the one that's going to
It
order
would
this?
be the principal of the teacher of the year.
Teacher would,
That's the easiest way to handle that. I like the idea myself. I don't know
Okay.
why I hadn't thought about it earlier.
So like for the teacher of the year, we get a flag for them, a poster for
Well,
them.
yeah, I just think
Yard
that ought to
sign.
be just a simple recognition. Yard signs are effective except during the political season. I mean, they're all over right now.
Yeah.
But most of the time, there's not very many yard signs out there. And so if you're a teacher in a community, I think it'd be kind of nice just to let people know.
But
I
December to March, how are you gonna put it in?
well,
In the snow.
yeah, yeah.
That would work. But you had some comments too, Terry, that you ought to express as well about yard signs. Do you want to? Or should we just ban you from?
You should ban me. I already gave you and Randall my feedback on that whole thing.
Okay, so Terry would like them to be a little more specific if we're going to recognize the students, or recognize the teachers. And she's not real sold on yard signs. Is that
Well,
right?
just because there are so many. I mean, there are nurses' yard signs, there are yard signs in businesses. I mean, right now, just this whole year, there are yard signs everywhere.
and I will add that to be an effective yard sign now, it has to take up the whole front yard.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, that's how,
Because
grow.
there are so many out. I
Yeah.
mean, and not just political. The political adds to it, but
it's for birthdays, missions,
it's, yes.
whatever.
It's the latest thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so to me, that's not effective.
okay.
So what do you want to do, Randall?
All on my shoulder.
Well, so I think we all recognize that we want to do this, it's just whether or not this is the mechanism to do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay,
Well,
Let's start with the card,
okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Start
And
with
then I hope we're all, I think we've got some agreement, at least in my mind I did. We only give the teacher of the year money, and I'm thinking that it wouldn't hurt to slip $100 in for the individual teacher of the year for a school. Wouldn't cost us hardly anything to do that.
Oh, yeah,
And then at least they would go out of here with
with something.
something.
All right.
I've seen the cards, they look amazing.
Did
Oh,
I-
she's already made them up?
Yeah, there was a misprint, so she's having redone it.
Oh,
Oh,
They look, she did a great design on them.
oh, wonderful, great.
I don't know many teachers out there, if you said, would you rather have a yard sign or $100?
that's true.
I
No
agree.
yard
I
signs.
agree.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
And maybe what you could put your next brain assignment to is if we don't do the yard signs, what is something we could do just maybe randomly with different teachers? Like the suggestion was after they've taught 10,000 students, they get recognized or something. Come up with just a little, we could do this when they have 5,000 students taught, or we could do this when they've spent this many years, or, you want to do that?
Yeah, sure, we could do that. Yeah, we mentioned that right now, the district isn't currently doing anything for, employees that have been there 10 or 20 years, but, yeah, we could just.
Do you like that idea? That would recognize more teachers if, after they've taught so many years or whatever.
And then support staff too, you could.
And support.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so you kind of mull it over and figure out if it would work for us or not, but let's start with the cards, then whatever else you want to come. Are you good with that?
Sure.
Cards and $100.
Uh-huh. Everybody's okay?
I
with
like that, yeah.
Okay, all right. You okay with that too?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was just gonna comment, I had never seen a car that Murdoch gives, but I saw Randall's and I thought, oh, I would park that thing in my garage and probably not drive it until, it's all, I mean, I thought they might put a little sign or something on it,
Uh-huh.
but it's like it's got a whole, what do they call
A whole
those things?
wrap?
A whole wrap.
Oh,
And it,
oh.
and it says teacher of the cash. Teacher of the year.
Oh, gosh.
And I mean, it's it's more than half the car.
Really?
So you'd like a yard sign, but not a car wrap?
I just don't think I'd feel comfortable driving it down the road. That's me. And other people would just probably go and just
Kathy
have a
would.
headache.
I'd be waiting.
Huh?
You know your car is gonna get.
So I might be slightly responsible for that. I'm hoping I'm not, because I mentioned to them, I had seen one down in St. George, that on the bumper, it said, Teacher of the Year, and then their young Kia.
Well, I would have
company
loved
went.
that.
So
But I'm
that was
telling
my
you,
suggestion to them, that they
You just
maybe-
put a bow on the front of this and the car's completely decorated.
Oh, well, we love that they give it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure, knowing Randall,
Yeah,
I'm sure the first time he saw it, it kinda,
took him off guard a bit.
we love you,
Gosh.
guys out there who've made this possible, so don't, if you watch this later on, don't think that we don't appreciate it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so Randall, I'll put you on again next time in case you have anything new, any other new plans. But thanks for gathering those together. I think that'll be nice. Okay, a couple of things on the president's report. There's the schedule for all of us to take a turn doing a little write-up of thanks and appreciation to the teachers and staff. Get it to Jenda. She'll send it out to everyone. Doesn't have to be long. Can be pretty short.
Does she want them all right now?
No.
Or just wait until it's our turn?
Yeah, just wait until it's your turn, I
Okay.
think. Okay? And then, so our challenge for our MBA assignment this month was to read an article or a book that was on USBA's site. But this is the article that Jenda sent to me on communication, and it kind of ties in with everything we've been talking about. So Roger says you can listen to it. I didn't know that, I just read it, but somehow or another, how did you get it so you could listen to it?
Just follow the links and
Oh,
it'll
okay.
come right up.
Oh, it's right there, yeah.
All
It's
right.
right there.
So if you don't want to do that one, that's fine.
minutes
But
and
the
30
articles are
seconds.
pretty short, and Dale said he read one, and it wasn't too long, so I don't think it would take a lot of time if you got one off of USBA. Just let me know when you get it
Okay.
done, because I just have to notify them. How many districts are actually doing this, Terry?
Every month there are more.
Oh, good.
So it's been a really good, actually Jeff gave me the idea that
Uh-huh.
everybody needs a reminder more often throughout the year to get stuff done. And so when I took that to the MBA committee, they were like, oh, that's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
So in November, I'll give you a heads up, the challenge is to have a business administrator or superintendent annual review, and we've already done that, so we're done with
Oh,
November.
perfect.
But then you also have to get your MBA finished and reported done by December 1st, which is the deadline. So there are actually 2 in November, but it's just finishing it. And so,
So if we've done all of the things that have been assigned, then we've done what we're supposed to do?
no, because you have to go to the MBA website and do
Yeah.
each of the,
Go into
5
each of
areas.
those things and sign them off as you do them.
Yeah.
Individually?
Yeah.
mhm,
So which one are we on? Because they only have four of those, right?
for,
I'm probably thinking of something else. I'm thinking about, how we had to go on and do 2 or 3 goals in each
Right,
one of those areas.
uh-huh.
Is that what you're talking about?
yes.
Oh,
And you and I have done it so long that we're past level 4, so there's just 2 things. There's a required one, and then something else that you create, or that you do individually or as a board. And we've done all those, so you just have to go on and fill them out.
okay.
That's all I'm saying.
All right, so everybody can do that. We can all fill out that we have done that part of it
Yeah.
and that we've done monthly things
Yeah,
as well.
and then you just have to report to USBA by December 1st that you finished.
Okay.
And,
And then they give us another little thing to go on our plaque,
yep.
which we have the plaque and it's going to be put up. Someday.
Okay.
Someday it's
All
going to be
right.
put up. Okay, sorry. Just had to rub it in. Okay, so I asked Richard if he would send me some of these little brochures for our legislators, so I can give it to them after they're voted in, and he sent enough for everyone, so that's why you have those. And do you anybody want to deliver it yourself to your local legislator, and then I won't mail it?
I can drop one off to Casey.
Okay. Anybody? Okay, so I'll do everybody but Casey then. And,
Does Casey live by you?
Yeah.
Cool.
How close?
I go past his house whenever I go up and down the road.
all right.
No,
and-
he's a mile away, but I go past his house to go home,
So
so.
he's a mile before you get to your house.
Yeah.
And
He's
then-
building
oh,
a
sorry.
big reception barn or something, so.
Hmm.
I hope he gets his amendment passed that we can hunt and fish.
Yeah. All righty, and so then, there is also a new board member workshop, which none of us really need to go to. I don't know if Chris has been, but if anybody hasn't been and would like to go, it is November 21st is the in-person meeting.
They're both in person.
Oh, okay. So one's in Cedar City and the other's in Spanish Fort. So I'm thinking all of us have already been, and it probably is just Chris that may be with me too. Is that correct?
He's the only one we
Okay.
weren't short.
All right. So I'll make sure he gets that. All righty. That's all I have. Superintendent?
We need to have some type of discussion regarding graduation. And Chris Cochran has presented the board with an idea that maybe we shouldn't be so quick to just turn our back on the type of graduation ceremonies we've had in the past, although I know that's the feeling of the parents from last year, and probably the feeling of much of the staffs of all four of our high schools. So, Mike, and you can chime in, when we know that Utah State is going to make their spectrum available. That's under the present conditions. So if things change and we get to May, and they could always change and not let us use that facility. So Chris is not here, and I don't certainly want to make a decision without him here. And it's not an agenda item anyway, but we need to at some point, because Justin and all the people who back up graduation we're looking for dates, and all that stuff starts to come together. So you just need to be thinking in your mind. I don't know how many of you read the article that Chris provided. Well thought out article. I thought many of its points were, I thought most of the article was right on. And so there is a dilemma that we're faced with. So if you just think about it, till we meet again next time, and we'll probably put it on the agenda as an item we need to kind of work towards. And just a thought, one of the ideas that we talked about is, since it's still unknown what might bring, that we maybe have some flexibility for this year also, and then make a decision after we're out of knowing whether we're going to have to wear masks, or we're going to have to limit the number of people, or all those things that are on us. We don't think they'll be there in 2022. So you might want to just say, we'll float the idea that each school can do what they want this year, but for the future, we would like to get back to having it as a community ritual, as that article pointed out. Just some thoughts.
What do the principals like?
They would move to not go back to the spectrum right now.
Oh.
But that's just because I think, well, I can't say just because. Things went relatively well, except for you about having a heat stroke. And things like that.
Except for me almost dying. It went really well.
So I'm just saying, if they probably were to be here tonight, they would tell you that they would just like to go their own direction another year.
Does
But
it have
Chris-
to be either or? I mean, does it have to be one way
No,
or the other?
that's why I
I
say you
mean,
could leave it this
Can't
year.
we well, I'm saying after
Oh,
this
for the
year.
future?
Can't we give them some strong guidance, but not demand that it be traditional at the spectrum, whatever? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we
There-
can. and-
There's so many smart people in this district, there's gotta be somebody who can come up with some type of hybrid thing that would make parents happy and still have
Communal-
some community,
Communal event,
some community traditional stuff.
yeah.
But without doing the whole pomp and circumstance. Not the song, I like the song. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think the whole thing's open. As you hear almost daily, some things are gonna go back to the way they were and some things never will. So we just need to have that discussion.
Well, I think one thing that COVID has done that's great is it's made everybody think out of the box.
Yeah,
And there's some really pretty good new ideas
yeah. Yep.
in education and other
So-
places as well.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, a
Um,
big thank you for being a very functional board. And I wondered why a week and a half ago I got a note from Sid saying, remember, your emails are public. And at the time, I couldn't think, well, that's a strange thing to come out of nowhere. But if you've been following things, it didn't come out of nowhere. And the Salt Lake Board is certainly going through a rough time right now in the public eye. And the fact that we don't have to worry about that, and we have unanimity, and we're very functional, and we have good rapport between everybody, it's greatly appreciated. I can't imagine what that superintendent's going through.
Well, and several of the board members, I mean, you all know Christy Sweat. She's physically ill right now
Yeah,
because of the contention on their
yeah,
board.
yep. Couldn't help but be. And the principal at West High, I'm sure he feels really good right now, and so we just don't have those things going on. I just want to thank you, and I know the other people down there would thank you too for that.
Okay, well, we want to thank you guys too. I mean, this has been, what a ride, huh? But it's great. Yeah. If only. All right, does anybody have anything else you want to bring up?
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Tim quit twice yesterday.
Oh, he
So-
does that all the time.
Here, I'll take you some chocolate.
Okay, all right, this meeting is adjourned.